War Rapport family, it's your boy Mike G here with Ike Jones. We got a special guest for you guys today. Auburn wide receiver from 2002 to 2006, 7-year NFL vet, Devin Aromashodu. Devin, thanks for joining us, man.
Thank you guys for having me. Pleasure to be here.
All right, so Devin, we're really excited to have you on today. We interviewed Courtney Taylor. We got lucky to be able to interview two receivers from our 2004 undefeated team, right? So you have a pretty important distinction in Auburn history in that you never lost to Bama. Y'all know what it's like to lose to Bama. And there are a lot of Auburn players who can't say that. And you went into Bryant-Denny and beat Bama, a few times during your career. Can you talk to us about what it was like to go in there and beat those guys consistently?
It definitely was a tough atmosphere playing there, it being the last game of the season. And, you're just so worn down from the whole season. But, you got to dig in and find a way to figure it out. And my freshman year, we went there, and Petrino was our offensive coordinator at the time. And we had some trick plays. Carnell and Ronnie were out. And Trey Smith got the start, and Trey Smith pretty much carried us, with a couple big plays we had during the game. But he pretty much was the key to us winning. We were able to establish the run game, and we went in there as underdogs and pulled off the victory. So it's always a crazy atmosphere. But after that first one, it kind of became something that we were used to. We felt like we could beat them every time we played them.
Yeah. Devin, that was a great time being down there on the plains during that period of time, being able to go and just experience the atmosphere of consistently beating Bama, your biggest rival. What are some of the things that you remember most just from that rivalry specifically? I know you guys probably had a lot of great memories. Like, is there anything that sticks out in your mind specifically about the Iron Bowl rivalry that you really that sticks out to you?
Well, for me, I heard of it, but being from Miami, it's a lot of other rivalries that I grew up watching. But when I got here, from the coaches, from the fans and teammates that grew up there, is that the Alabama game was important, especially from my classmates. They would always say, "We don't care how you guys do in other games, just beat Alabama." And so that was just something we kind of focused on, and it kind of grew on me, and just to know how passionate people were about that rivalry. So that definitely just was something that sticks with me, just knowing the importance of that game and it being the last regular season game.
Okay, so Devin, I wanted to pivot a little bit and talk about culture, right? Okay, you guys beat Bama like it was your favorite thing to do, right? You played on an undefeated team. Can you talk a little bit about team culture during that time? I mean, you guys, for what I remember, you guys were a tight-knit group. Courtney Taylor, Devin, Ben Obumanu, Anthony Mix, right? Like, you guys had some dogs. You guys were great blockers, and Coach Knox was your coach. Can you talk about what it was like for you guys in practice competing against each other and what the culture was like?
Yeah, Coach Knox, he definitely was tough on us. He was real tough on us. He always wanted to make sure that we were the complete receiver, that we knew everything we were supposed to do. I think it kind of, for me personally, it started with Coach Bobby Petrino, who was the offensive coordinator when I got to Auburn. One of the reasons I went there, because he did like to throw the ball. So with him, he put a lot on us at an early point. You had to know everything in the scheme of the offense. It was a lot of we had to know what the protections were, who we were hot off of. We didn't necessarily, if we didn't get a point from the quarterback, we still had to know what our route was and who we were hot off of. So with him, he was very hard on us as far as knowing everything from day one. And he knew as freshmen that some of us were going to get to play. So he wanted us to be able to compete and be ready for adverse situations. So he kind of, ingrained something in me that I didn't have coming there, just developing me and being hard on us and just making sure he never took a break on us.
Okay, so talk about that a little bit from, coming in as a freshman. So you had to make the mental leap in the game twice, right? Like, there's a physical aspect, of course, but from high school to college and then college to the pros. But just talk about a little bit about some of the stuff that you knew you needed to get better at as a receiver in order for you to be the top receiver or make sure you got the playing time necessary.
Yeah, for me, it was definitely, yeah, the mental part was definitely the biggest jump because everyone knows you got to get bigger and faster and stronger, but no one really talks about the mental part, which is more of it. That's a larger percentage of your success. So with that part, just knowing the plays and playing fast. When you know the plays, that was the first step for me because you're getting a large playbook. So knowing the plays that allows you to play fast and know where you're going and do what you have to do with confidence. And then the last step is just a natural part is either if it's a run play blocking or if it's a pass play catching the ball. So the main thing is knowing the plays, knowing what everyone does, and understanding how the play works. I think as a freshman, your head spinning. You come in, I played as a freshman, so I'm just out there. I just want to make plays. So as I got older, I start to understand how the whole play worked and the whole scheme. So I would know pre-snap read if I was getting the ball and not just based off what the defense was doing. I was able to read the defense with Coach Knox. We had to, we had to have a pre-snap read. We had to know what the guy over us, guy inside of us, guy over the top was doing. So you're looking at all those components trying to figure out, what your route was. I never really, believe it or not, I never really looked at the DB in front of me because he would not really tell me what I was doing. It was always the safety and the guys inside that would tell me what I was doing. So the leverage, the DB the cornerback can kind of move around and play a little bit, but that safety has to eventually at some point be honest. And he's going to tell you what the defense is doing. So, from learning that from Coach Knox, helped us develop. And once you start to pick up and know the plays, now you can focus more on the defense, which allows you to play faster. As my freshman year, it was rough because I was just trying to learn the plays and be in the right place at the right time. But sophomore, junior, senior year, I knew what the plays were, so I could kind of focus more on what the defense was doing to make sure that I was in the right spot for the quarterback. So, we worked on that, and Coach Knox was the type of person, he didn't want us messing up any. So, he was real hard on us as well. So we worked on plays, we worked on blocking, we worked on anything we could to make sure that we were doing our job and not the weak link of the offense.
Devin, you said something that I kind of want to highlight for our listeners, in that at some point the game slowed down for you, right? And you started to be able to see the field. Now, Knox was hard. I think there was based on talking to Jarris McIntyre and Courtney Taylor, and now you, right? Like Knox was the common denominator for a lot of you guys in your development. Can you talk about how important your position coach was to your success?
Yeah, position coach was very important to our success. Coach Knox was, like I said, very, very hard on us from day one. And we had to be hard on each other because we all were competing for, let's just be honest, we had great running backs, so we weren't competing for many balls. So they had to find a way to try to separate who was going to play and who wasn't going to play. So, with him being tough on us, he made sure that the right guys were out there at the right time. And he always just harped on, he hated us when we fumbled the ball in practice. So he would send us to the trees. I don't know if you remember hearing stories of that, but we could not fumble the ball. He did not, that was his worse than anything, dropping the pass, messing up, is turning the ball over to the defense. And letting the other offense get on the field. So we always tried to make sure when we caught the ball, we held on to the ball and finished the play. But his just the way he would come in and have us watch film, release drills. That was a major thing with Coach Knox. We had to know how to get off the ball and beat man coverage, because having good running backs, teams are going to press you. Right. And they're going to bring more guys in the box. So you're going to have one-on-one coverage, and most of the time it's going to be press man. So we will watch release drills on different guys. Some of those tapes we would watch were probably like 20, 25, or 30 years old. He'd be like, wow, I got to find that tape. He'd go pull the tape up, and we watch it. We go out and practice and do it. And that part helped me because when I got, as I started playing, and even when you watch some guys that are playing in the NFL now, a lot of guys don't really have releases. That's why you can separate a lot of good receivers like the Devontae Adams. They look at that and they say, wow, he's doing something special, but he's just doing something that all of them are supposed to be doing. You're supposed to know how to get off the ball, how to get off man coverage. That part of our game is something that Coach Knox harped on, because that made us complete receivers. Because once a team presses you, if they can take you away with press and you can't get off the ball, then it's not really much you can do. But if you can beat that press coverage, then it's a problem for a defense.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear about some of the stuff. But I think one of the things that I want to come back to that you just talked about is something we heard from Chris Todd about like the mentality of going in wanting to compete for your spot, right? Like there's only so many receivers that are going to get into a game on a given play, and you know the ball wasn't going to come your direction a lot. But just talk to me a little bit about some of the competition that might have sprung, some healthy competition, hopefully in the practice that came up between you and the rest of the wide receiver core.
Yeah, we never really, to be honest, we weren't that type of group. We may have had that competition within ourselves to beat out the other one, but we never really took it to that point. We just always were about the team, and we wanted to win at any means necessary. Obviously, because most of the time what we did was block. So if we were the type of person that wanted the ball every play, let's just be honest, we wouldn't have been at Auburn long. We would have found somewhere else to go, because you just weren't going to get the number of balls that a receiver is expecting to get year in, year out. So we honestly were there for the team to win, and the balls that we got, we were happy for each other when we got them. And it was always a group victory. Every time after somebody scored, we always got together and congratulated that receiver and prayed together. So we were definitely a close group and wanted success for each person. Okay,
so opportunities were limited for catches. But I want to go back to something you said about why you chose Auburn. Petrino was the offensive coordinator, and you knew that he was going to throw the ball.
Yes.
Now, if you've been watching Auburn football over the last few years, you know that that this wide receiver has been kind of a bugaboo for us, right? Like, and how important is it for a receiver coming in, if you're being recruited, to know that you're going to an offense that's going to throw the ball? Is it a make or break for whether you attend that school or not?
I have a different mindset now versus when I was being recruited. But yeah, obviously you want to go somewhere where you're going to be able to showcase your talents. Because, when I look at it now, you're auditioning to be a professional in whatever you're doing. So if you're not able to showcase your talents if you're not able to maximize your talent there, then that's probably not the right place for you. You wouldn't go to a school that doesn't have the best engineers and you want to be an engineer. If you have the opportunity to go to school that produces the best engineers, then you're gonna go there. It only makes sense. So, it's definitely important to want to go somewhere and if they say they're gonna throw the ball to you, get the balls you need to get. As a receiver, it's important to keep receivers in the game. You watch the game today, the top receivers in the NFL, they make sure they get them the ball. They don't wait till third quarter to get them the ball. You have to get them involved in the game and get a rhythm going. So it's definitely something that, is important, especially for a freshman player who's thinking he's going to get the ball. If he doesn't get it, then, his mind could be going anywhere. And as a young player, it's hard to keep somebody focused when, they're thinking one thing and another thing happens. And, their talent can waver a little bit because they're like, okay, I thought I was going to get the ball. I didn't get the ball. And now, second, third game, and they're wondering where the balls are coming. When are they going to get the ball? So, it's something that you definitely want to go somewhere where you're going to be able to showcase your ability.
So let's talk about that a little bit more in regard to receivers today, right? If you were being recruited by Auburn today, what would be your perception of like how likely it would be that you would want to, like, let's say pre-Brian Harsin, right? New coach is there. We don't really know a lot about him, but just in the last few years, like how likely would it be that Devin ends up at Auburn in the system that we've been under the last couple of years?
I don't know. I mean, they've been putting some good receivers out and putting them in the NFL and getting them the ball. So from a perspective of a high school player, I can't argue with that, but I will look at the amount of guys that didn't develop and that transferred that were top players. So, it kind of would be just, if I have the opportunity to play early and catch the ball, because in the offense, you're going to get the ball. So, I would Auburn would definitely have a shot in my book as far as somewhere I would go. Now, the other schools in the SEC are doing the same thing, if not a little bit better. So if I am getting recruited by those schools, it will be tough to turn them down with their production at the receiver position right now.
So Isaac brought it up. So I want to pivot a little bit here too. Big news on the Plains is obviously we have a new coach, Brian Harsin. Now, if you're like us, we didn't know a ton about him except for that he's been at Boise forever as an offensive coordinator and then eventually as a head coach. They've done fairly well, albeit in the Mountain West. So I want to get your thoughts on the coaching change. You've clearly been following the program. So, like, what did you think about the program under Gus, and what did you think about the timing of the change?
I think it was time. It was time for change. I think it was a little bit overdue. So something they should have done, or at least discussed, at least, kind of had like a plan going into. I think I expected more I expected our team to be a little further than we are now, at least as far as from a consistency standpoint. So I think it was definitely time for us to move on and try to find another way to get back to what this team was.
So when you say get back to what this team was, like what were some of the frustrations as an Auburn guy watching this team play over the last couple of years? What were some of the things that frustrated you specifically about the offense? Like we weren't producing a ton of points. We had struggles in the red zone. Like what were the things that made you just kind of grit your teeth and be like, man, I can't watch this, or whatever it was?
I would say just the I mean, you bring in someone who's an offensive guru, so we're expecting to score a lot of points. We're getting good talent, so we can't really put the blame on there. So it was just the inconsistencies. Some of the stuff we were getting just wasn't, either it was feast or famine. Either we get sacked for a 15-yard loss, or we make a 60-yard play down the field. There was no consistent drives and stuff put together. Like in the NFL. You beat a team, you put together a long drive, that demoralizes the defense. For us, it was, okay, we make a 90-yard touchdown, then to come back the next series, it's third and 20 something. Now we have to punt the ball. So it was we didn't never really have a true identity of, okay, we're down, our backs against the wall. This is what we're going to do to win the game. I didn't see them allow the guys to compete enough. For the ball, it seems like we were trying to, run too many just gimmick plays. Whereas, that's when we played smaller schools, that's what they did against us, because they knew they didn't have the talent level we had. We played as if we had less talent than other schools. A lot of times, it wasn't really the plays that we called when I was at Auburn. It was just us wanting the ball more than the other guy. And that's simply what it comes down to. If I had one-on-one coverage, then I was going deep, and that was it. It wasn't really that we had to, throw the ball here and give this guy the ball to throw me the ball. If I got one-on-one coverage, it was my job to win, because they recruited me, they brought me in because I was a talented player, so they expected me to win in a one-on-one situation. So I think more of it for me was just not allowing, some of the guys we brought in as receivers to just be able to compete and win, anytime they got one-on-one coverage. If they let our guys, if there was a one-on-one matchup, then they should allow that receiver to win. If it's two safeties, allow the running back to do what he does and get 5 or 6 yards. So kind of just taking what the defense would give us versus, trying to run some trick plays and get yards off of that. When, I mean, it looks like, to be honest, most of the defense at SEC kind of caught up with what we were doing as far as those type of plays. So I think, we had the talent to just go out there and just allow those guys to win, like they allowed Seth Williams to do from time to time. But, that's something he could have done consistently over and over again until they had to double team him. Then when you double team him, you got the other receiver, you got the running back. So, if you can take away 2 players, there's only 9 players left. So, our 10 players should be just as talented or better than their 9 players. So we run a play to expose that. So, I think it should have been more of that. It's kind of if they take this away, then we go do this, because if they want to take Seth Williams away, then the other person has to win. The other receiver has to win. And with the speed of who they had on the other side, he should have been winning because he can't double both of them. Right. So if you double both guys, that means the running game is wide open. So you got one guy that's fast, and you got one guy that's going to catch everything over you. So they could essentially, if they wanted to, take 4 guys away from the play, leaving my man 7 guys left to cover. What we always had was a great running back, which is that's not gonna stop our run game. So for me, maybe it's not that easy, but it is that easy when I played. You know, they load up the box, we throw the ball deep. They don't load up the box, we run the ball. That's what we did when I was there, and it was that simple.
Okay, so Devin, you said something that I kind of want to pivot to a little bit. Ones versus ones. Now, I don't know if you heard this, right? But it came out that Gus didn't like to run first team offense versus first team defense in practice. Now, you played with a Thorpe Award winner in Carlos Rogers, you know, and can you talk about what kind of development opportunity may have been missed for these guys not running versus the first team defense in practice?
Just being able to compete against, you know, the top guys that you have on the other side of the ball, it makes everyone better. So I think it's just from a standpoint of just going against the best guy and it not being so scripted, and knowing both of you guys have to go into the film room after that and watch that and figure out what you could have done to win, or, you know, what you could have done to do a little better. I think it was just an opportunity there. It comes back to competing, just being able to compete against the other guy and win, and not necessarily do something that's scripted, because most of the stuff you do in practice is scripted and set up either for, you know, for maybe a 50-50 chance, or for you to win, or for the defense to win, and for you maybe to find a way to win. So, you know, usually when you do that first team versus first team, yes, the plays are scripted, but it's for whoever wins that battle. So I think those are definitely some big opportunities missed there for guys just to go against each other and kind of just find out who wants it more.
So I've heard you say this word over and over again, and I just really want to harp on the idea of going out there and competing. Like, you know, I'm sure it's a mix, but like, where does that get instilled into a team that you see it? If you see it not happening on the field, like, how do you get guys to up their level and make sure that they're competing every game, every play? Like, where does that come from?
Some guys have it in them from day one, and some guys are, you know, needed to be brought out of them. I'll be honest with you, I was a guy that needed it to be brought out of me. I competed, but, you know, from a standpoint, you're going from high school to college, you're never around that much talent. So when I saw guys start to get ahead of me, then something inside me turned on and said, I can't let them get too far ahead of me. I got to do something to either catch up and pass them. So it's built in the off season with strength and conditioning. We do different stuff like spring mat drills and stuff like that to kind of, you know, get the guys going and see who's going to quit. Just long 2-minute drives at the end of practice. You're tired, you go in and you got to score in under 2 minutes when it's the last 2 minutes of the game. Things like that kind of build that in the person, but it comes deep down inside of you. And, you know, your position coach, who sees you most, is the person that's gonna make sure that you're always competing. And in our room, we all came in together. I think we brought in, maybe initially it was probably seven receivers in 2002 that were on scholarship in that class. So we knew we all weren't going to play. So we always had to make sure we were competing. If we didn't compete, you weren't going to play that week. So, you know, for us as receivers, we had no choice. It wasn't, you know, where we had some freshmen behind us and we were junior seniors. You had someone that was same experience, same amount of ability as you. So you knew if you didn't compete, then you weren't going to be out there long.
Wow, that's great. So competition, right? So, you know, we're saying that there may have been some opportunities missed in terms of development. Can you talk about, you played with 3 different quarterbacks. You played with Daniel Cobb, you played with Jason Campbell. We know how that one ended, right? And undefeated the season in 2004. And then you played with Brandon Cox for a year. Can you talk about a receiver's relationship with his quarterback, and what can a receiver do to develop a good relationship with his quarterback?
Yeah, having a relationship with a quarterback is definitely something you want to have. You want to have that good rapport with them. For me, it's staying after practice or before practice, catching balls with the quarterback. In the off season, catching balls with the quarterback, and just kind of getting on the same page, and him just understanding you. That's kind of something, you know, because unfortunately we didn't throw the ball that much when I was at Auburn. So, you know, that's something I kind of understood a little later in my career when I got to the NFL and was fortunate enough to play with the Colts and watch Peyton Manning, go through drills with Stokely, Reggie Wayne, and Marvin Harrison, just to understand how they knew where each other was going to be, just watching them run routes. And they knew, how Marvin was going to run his route. It was always different from how Reggie Wayne ran it. For instance, I'll give you an example. Marvin Harrison always ran his route shorter than the distance he was supposed to run it. So I came in for Marvin one play, and, I'm doing everything how it's supposed to do. I'm playing his position, and I go and I run the route, the full distance that the route is supposed to be ran in the playbook. And he threw the ball already. And he said, where were you at? Why weren't you there? And so I went back to this. It was an incomplete pass. So I went back to the sideline. Receiver coach said, what happened? And I told him I ran the route to such and such yards. He's like, well, you got to run it to the distance that Marvin runs the route, because that's where the ball's going to be. So it's just they had that type of connection. I think that type of relationship, building that is just something that, it takes time, unfortunately. But, when you build that with a quarterback and a receiver, you become unstoppable. Like, he knew where he was going to be, and he's programmed to know that Marvin's going to be there and he's going to be in this certain spot. So that's where he's expecting him to be. So, building something like that just comes from constantly throwing the ball to someone and constantly doing it over and over again.
So you talked about the transition to the NFL. I want to just kind of hit on, what was your experience in getting prepped for that and kind of making the transition from college to the pros?
Coach Dotson did a great job of preparing us as far as releases. I'm a bigger receiver, so, a lot of times you want to slow down a bigger receiver, you go up and press them. So, being able to get off the line of scrimmage was one of the major things that I felt I had an advantage of. I was naturally fast, so once I got going downfield, it was tough to stop. But him prepping us as far as releases was one of the biggest things that helped me at the next level and route running. He always wanted to get our full depth on routes, so I always kind of made sure that I got the full depth on the routes that that the play was designed for. And his preparation and the stuff he did, we didn't like it, but when I realized when I got to the NFL, I was that far ahead of some of the guys that were that came in with me or were already there because they didn't have the same structure and coaching that I had.
Devin, kind of going back to the coaching change, right? We got a new head coach, but, most importantly for a lot of the receivers at Auburn right now, we have a new offensive coordinator. That's something that you've gone through as a player. If you could talk to these guys now and give them some advice on what's the one thing that they should be doing under this new coach, what would that advice be?
My advice would be that everyone has a clean slate. So go out there and work hard. There's no ones, there's no twos, there's none of that. Just go out there and do your best and make your first impression on that coach. And, and it'll be a lasting impression. So everybody should be, as far as players, should be working hard to when it comes time for coach to decide who's going to do what, you're ready to get out there and showcase your talents, and everything else is left behind. So he doesn't have an opinion. A good coach is going to formulate his own opinion on a player. So, that's what I'm expecting Coach Harsin to do, is go out there and clean everyone's slate and let those guys go out there and learn the playbook and compete. And obviously, learn the playbook, learn the plays. That's important. And you can't play fast if you don't know the plays.
All right. Well, Devin, listen, we appreciate you taking some time to talk with us today. Before we get out of here, we just want to hear, what do you have going on with yourself right now? Post-playing career, what is Devin doing on the day-to-day? How are you spending your time?
Well, I went back to school in 2014 and finished and got my degree. So I finished up in spring of 2015, I think it was, in business administration. And I've been working as a mortgage banker it'll be 5 years in March. So I've been doing that, and I love it, and I enjoy helping people get into a home. So that's kind of my new passion now. And, that's what I do. And I look forward to doing it for a long time.
Well, Devin, listen, we really appreciate you joining us today and helping us educate our listeners on what it's like for a receiver, at the college level and what it takes to get to the next level. I think that a lot of fans benefit from being able to hear from players directly about what the process is like, especially since we got a new coach, man. We have a new system coming in. So it was great that you were able to join us today. As always, we are the War Rapport. Please like and subscribe on YouTube. We are the War Rapport on Twitter and Instagram. TW Report on TikTok. Gentlemen, we're signing off. And as always, War Eagle.
War Eagle.